The champagne glass slipped from Ayanna's fingers, shattering against the stage floor as she stared at the man kneeling before her with a ring box open. Cameras broadcasting this moment to 3 million live viewers. "What did you just say?" Her voice came out strangled. Shin Tae-Yang smiled, that confident, devastating smile that had probably never been told no in his entire privileged life. "I said, marry me, Ayanna Mitchell. Be my wife, and I'll give you everything you've ever dreamed of." The charity gala audience held its collective breath. Behind the cameras, producers were probably losing their minds at the unexpected ratings gold. And Ayanna felt rage building in her chest like a volcano about to erupt. This man had just proposed marriage. On live television. Without ever asking if she wanted to be proposed to. "Get up," she said quietly. "Before we go further, hit like and subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next." But it actually began 3 weeks earlier. Ayanna Mitchell had built roots and soul from nothing. 6 years ago, she'd been a line cook at a corporate restaurant in downtown Atlanta, watching white chefs with half her talent get promoted while she stayed invisible. So she'd quit, maxed out 3 credit cards, and opened her own place in the Old Fourth Ward, a neighborhood restaurant serving elevated soul food with West African influences that honored both sides of her heritage. The critics had called it revelatory. A love letter to the Black diaspora written in flavors. Her grandmother's jollof rice recipe reimagined with Georgia peaches. Oxtail braised in bourbon and Berber spices. Cornbread made with Nigerian coconut. Food that told her story, her family's story, her people's story. Within 3 years, she had a James Beard nomination. Within 4, her own cooking show on the Food Network. Within 5, she was opening a second location and planning a third. At 32, Ayanna Mitchell was living her dream. And she'd done it on her own terms, without compromise, without selling out, without needing anyone's permission or approval. Which was why, when Shin Tae-Yang walked into her restaurant on a random Tuesday evening, she treated him like any other customer. "Table for one?" she asked, not recognizing him despite his face being on half the business magazines in circulation. "Please." His English was perfect, barely accented. He was tall, at least 6'2", with the kind of sharp features and expensive haircut that screamed money. His suit probably cost more than her monthly rent. "I've heard extraordinary things about your food." "Well, I hope we live up to the hype." Ayanna smiled professionally and led him to a corner table. "Jasmine will be your server tonight. Enjoy." She watched him from the kitchen, the way she watched all her customers. He ordered the tasting menu, all 12 courses. And with each dish, she saw his expression change. Surprise, then pleasure, then something that looked almost like reverence. When he finished, he asked to speak to the chef. Ayanna emerged, wiping her hands on her apron. "You wanted to see me?" Tae-Yang stood, and up close she noticed his eyes. Dark, intense, focused on her with unnerving concentration. "That was the best meal I've had in 10 years. Possibly ever." "Thank you. That's what we aim for." "I'm Shin Tae-Yang. I own." "I know who you are," Ayanna interrupted, placing him now. "Shin International Hotels, luxury properties in 30 countries. Billionaire at 28 through a combination of inheritance and ruthless business expansion. Your hotels have restaurants, good ones. Not like this, not like you." He handed her a business card. "I'd like to discuss a partnership. Your food, my hotels. We could change fine dining across Asia. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in partnerships right now. I like being independent." "Everyone has a price, Miss Mitchell." The presumption in his voice made her spine stiffen. "Maybe in your world, not in mine. Enjoy your evening, Mr. Shin." She walked away, feeling his eyes on her back, and ignored the flutter of something in her chest. He was handsome, yes. Powerful, certainly. But men like that saw everything as acquisitions, including people. She had no interest in being acquired. He came back the next night, and the night after that. Always alone, always ordering the tasting menu, always asking to speak to her afterward. "You're persistent," Ayanna said on night 4, sitting across from him with a glass of wine she probably shouldn't be drinking with a customer. "When I find something exceptional, I pursue it." His eyes held hers. "Your food is exceptional, Miss Mitchell, but I'm beginning to suspect you are too." "Flattery doesn't work on me, Mr. Shin." "It's not flattery if it's true. Tell me about the jollof rice. That's Nigerian, correct? But you've done something different with it." "My grandmother was from Lagos. She taught me to cook before I could read. The peach edition is Georgia, where I grew up. It's about honoring both sides of who I am." "That's beautiful. Food as identity, as storytelling." He leaned forward. "This is why I want to work with you. You don't just cook, you create meaning." Despite herself, Ayanna felt seen. Understood in a way most people didn't understand her work. Why does a Korean hotel magnate care so much about soul food? "Because I've eaten in every Michelin-starred restaurant in the world, and most of them are soulless. Technical perfection without heart." "Your food has heart, Ayanna. May I call you Ayanna?" The use of her first name should have felt presumptuous. Instead, it felt intimate. "If I can call you Tae-Yang." "Please do." His smile was genuine, warm. "Have dinner with me." "Not here. Somewhere neutral. Let me show you what I'm proposing." "This sounds like a business meeting." "It is. Mostly." His eyes held something that made her pulse quicken. "Though I'd be lying if I said I wasn't also interested in knowing the woman behind the food." Red flags. So many red flags. Rich man. Persistent. Used to getting what he wants. Everything her mama had warned her about. But there was something in his eyes. A loneliness that mirrored her own. That made her ignore her better judgment. "One dinner," she said. "Business only." "Of course." But his smile suggested he was already planning more. The dinner was at his penthouse, which should have been another red flag, but he'd explained he had a private chef who could prepare Korean dishes she'd never tried. And Ayanna's curiosity about food always overrode her caution. The penthouse was stunning, modern, minimalist, with art that was clearly original and probably priceless. But it felt cold, empty, like a hotel room rather than a home. "You don't really live here, do you?" she said, accepting a glass of wine. "I live everywhere and nowhere. Hotels, mostly. I haven't had a real home since..." He paused. "Since my mother died. I was 14. I'm sorry." She was the only person who ever cooked for me with love instead of obligation. "Your food reminds me of hers. Not the flavors. She was Korean, obviously. But the feeling behind it. That's why I keep coming back." The vulnerability in his voice made something shift in Ayanna's chest. "What happened to your father?" "He's alive. Very much alive. Running the company, controlling every aspect of my life, including who I should marry." Tae-Yang's jaw tightened. "Which is part of why I need your help." "My help?" "The partnership I'm proposing isn't just business. It's..." He took a breath. "My father is pressuring me to marry someone appropriate. A Korean woman from a powerful family. Someone who sees me as a merger, not a person. I've been refusing, but he's threatening to remove me as CEO if I don't comply." "So you want me to..." "Be my public girlfriend. Let me take you to events, be seen together, convince my father I'm serious about someone he can't control. In exchange, I'll fund your expansion. Multiple locations, international presence, whatever you want." Ayanna set down her wine glass. You want to pay me to be your fake girlfriend so you can avoid an arranged marriage. When you say it like that, it sounds manipulative. Because it is manipulative, Tae-Yang. I'm not a business strategy. You're right. I'm sorry. That came out wrong. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. I'm not good at this. At asking for things without making them transactions. Everything in my life has been bought or negotiated. I don't know how to just connect with people. Then learn. Start by being honest instead of transactional. You're right. He met her eyes. Here's honest. I'm attracted to you. Your talent, your passion, the way you've built something from nothing without compromising who you are. I admire that. I want to be around that. Around you. But I also need help navigating my father's expectations. And I thought maybe we could help each other. That was selfish, and I apologize. The honesty disarmed her. Ayanna studied him, this powerful, lonely man who'd probably never had a real relationship in his life because everything was filtered through money and expectations. I appreciate your honesty, but I'm not interested in being anyone's fake anything. I've worked too hard to build my reputation to risk it on a publicity stunt. She stood. I should go. Wait. He stood too. No deals, no transactions, just... Could we try this? Getting to know each other? As people, not business partners? Why? Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that first dinner. Because you're the first person in years who's treated me like a human being instead of a walking bank account. Because when I'm in your restaurant, eating your food, I feel something I haven't felt since my mother died. I feel like I'm home. The raw vulnerability in his voice nearly broke her. Tae-Yang. I'm not asking for forever, just a chance. Let me take you to dinner. A real date, not a business meeting. Let me show you I'm more than just a billionaire with control issues. Ayanna should have said no, should have walked out and never looked back. Instead, she heard herself saying, one date, real date, no business talk. And if I don't like it, you stop coming to my restaurant and leave me alone. Deal? Deal. His smile was like sunrise. Thank you, Ayanna. You won't regret this. But as she left his penthouse, she couldn't shake the feeling that she already did. The date was... perfect. Tae-Yang took her to a small Korean restaurant in Buford Highway, run by an elderly couple who'd known his mother. They sat in a private room on floor cushions, eating kimchi jjigae and galbi that tasted like love and memory. My mother used to bring me here, he said, his voice soft. When my father was working late and she wanted to escape the mansion. She'd pretend we were normal people, just a mom and her son eating dinner. You miss her? Every day. She was the only one who saw me as Tae-Yang, not the heir or the investment. When she died, I lost the only person who loved me unconditionally. Ayanna reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. I lost my dad when I was 20. Heart attack. He never got to see the restaurant, never knew I made it. Some days that grief still hits me like a truck. How do you handle it? I cook. Every dish is a conversation with him. Every success is making him proud. The grief doesn't go away, but it transforms into something you can carry. Tae-Yang's fingers threaded through hers. You're remarkable, Ayanna Mitchell. I'm just a girl who cooks food and tries not to screw up too badly. No. You're someone who turned pain into art, who built an empire from nothing but determination and talent, who treats everyone with dignity regardless of their bank account. His eyes held hers. You're everything I want to be and nothing I am. You're better than you think, Tae-Yang. You just need to believe it. They talked for hours, about food and loss and dreams and fears, about being lonely in crowds and the weight of expectations, about building lives that looked perfect and felt empty. When he drove her home, he walked her to her door like a gentleman. Can I see you again? He asked. Yes. The answer came without hesitation. I'd like that. He kissed her then, soft, tentative, asking permission with every movement. And Ayanna, who'd sworn off relationships to focus on her career, who'd built walls around her heart to protect her dreams, found herself kissing him back. It was the beginning of something dangerous and inevitable. They dated for 3 weeks. 3 perfect, impossible weeks where Tae-Yang showed her soul's hidden restaurants and she taught him to make cornbread in her apartment kitchen. Where they talked until 3 a.m. about everything and nothing. Where she learned he was funny and kind, and surprisingly insecure beneath all that confidence. Where she fell in love without meaning to. "I need to tell you something," Tae-Yang said one evening. They were at her apartment, cooking together, and his tone made her stomach drop. "That sounds ominous. My father knows about us. He's not pleased. Because I'm black. Because you're not Korean and not from a powerful family. The racism is part of it, but mostly it's about control. He can't manipulate you, can't use your family as leverage. That terrifies him. What does this mean for us? It means he's threatening to cut me off if I don't end things. Remove me as CEO, freeze my trust fund, essentially disown me." Ayanna set down her knife. "And what did you tell him?" "I told him you're worth more than all of it. The company, the money, his approval. I told him I choose you." Her breath caught. "Tae-Yang, you can't throw away your life for me. We've only been together 3 weeks. I'm not throwing it away. I'm finally choosing something for myself instead of accepting what's been chosen for me." He pulled her close. "But I need your help. There's a charity gala next week. Televised. Every major business leader in Atlanta will be there. If I can show my father, and the world, that I'm serious about you, that we're real, he'll have to accept it or risk public embarrassment by disowning me." "How do you show we're serious?" "By proposing. On live television. Making it too public for him to interfere." Ayanna's blood went cold. "You want to propose to me? In front of millions of people? After 3 weeks? I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But Ayanna, I love you. I'm in love with you. And I want to marry you. Not just to spite my father, but because you make me want to be better. Because you see me. Because I can't imagine my life without you in it." "Tae-Yang, say yes. Please. Let me protect what we have. Let me show the world you're mine, and I'm yours." Everything in Ayanna screamed, warning. This was too fast, too public, too much like being bought even if he didn't mean it that way. But she looked at his eyes, desperate, hopeful, vulnerable, and she wanted to believe. "Let me think about it," she said. "The gala is in a week. Let me think. Of course, take all the time you need." But his smile was already victorious, like he knew her answer before she did. The charity gala was held at the Fox Theater, packed with Atlanta's elite and broadcast live on PBS. Ayanna wore a custom gown, black silk that hugged her curves, with gold accents that made her dark skin glow. She felt beautiful and terrified. Tae-Yang had arranged for them to do a cooking demonstration together, preparing a fusion dish that combined Korean and soul food techniques. It was supposed to be fun, romantic, showcasing their relationship. Instead, it became a nightmare. Midway through the demonstration, as they plated the final dish, Tae-Yang set down his utensils. The stage lights brightened, and he dropped to one knee, pulling out a ring box that probably cost more than her restaurant. "Ayanna Mitchell," he said, his voice carrying through the silent theater and into millions of homes. "You've changed my life. You've shown me what real love looks like, what it means to choose something beyond money and power and expectations. Marry me. Be my wife. Let me give you everything you've ever dreamed of. Restaurants around the world, unlimited resources, a life of luxury you deserve. Say yes." The cameras zoomed in on Ayanna's face, capturing her shock. The audience held its breath, and she felt rage building, not just at him, but at herself for almost falling for it. This wasn't love. This was a transaction. He was offering her dreams in exchange for his freedom, packaging it as romance when it was really just another business deal. And he'd done it publicly, on live television, counting on social pressure and her feelings for him to force her to say yes. "Get up," she said quietly, but the microphone caught it. "Ayanna?" "I said get up." Her voice was steel now. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to reduce me to a business decision and call it love." Tae-Yang's face went pale. "What? No, Ayanna, that's not—" "Then what is it?" She turned to address the cameras directly, her anger finding its voice. "Let me tell you what this is, everyone watching at home. This is what happens when a billionaire decides he wants something. He thinks he can buy it. My talent, my time, my life. All for sale if the price is right." "Ayanna, please." She turned back to him, and the hurt in his eyes almost made her stop. "Almost. You said you loved me for seeing you as a person instead of a bank account. But you've never seen me as a person, have you? Just another acquisition, another thing to add to your collection. That's not true. I love you. Then why didn't you ask me in private? Why make this public spectacle unless you were counting on social pressure to force me to say yes?" She took off the small necklace he'd given her 2 days ago and set it on the prep table. "I'm not for sale, Tae-Yang. Not my love, not my dreams, not my life. Find someone else to solve your daddy issues." She walked off the stage, ignoring his calls, ignoring the stunned silence of 300 people and 3 million viewers. Behind her, she heard him say something in Korean, maybe an apology, maybe a curse. But she didn't stop. She'd just rejected a billionaire's proposal on live television. And within hours, the clip would go viral. The fallout was immediate and brutal. "Ayanna Says No" trended worldwide. Think pieces were written about women rejecting public proposals. Her Instagram exploded with both support, queen behavior, and vitriol. She's an idiot for turning down a billionaire. Her restaurant was flooded with reservation requests from people wanting to meet the woman who'd rejected Shin Tae-Yang. And Tae-Yang himself went silent. For 3 days, nothing. No calls, no texts, no appearances at her restaurant. Ayanna told herself she was relieved. Told herself she'd made the right choice. Ignored the ache in her chest that suggested otherwise. On day 4, her landlord called. "Miss Mitchell, I need to inform you that the building has been sold." Her blood went cold. "Sold? To who?" "Shin International Properties. They've offered to buy out your lease or renegotiate terms if you'd like to stay." He'd bought her building, the building her restaurant was in. Tae-Yang had bought it. On day 5, her produce supplier called to say they'd been acquired by a Korean conglomerate. Her seafood supplier the day after. Her meat supplier on day 7. He was buying everything. Every vendor, every supplier, every business connection she had. On day 10, the Food Network called to inform her that Shin International had purchased a majority stake in their parent company. Her show was safe, but her new executive producer would be someone Tae-Yang had personally recommended. Ayanna sat in her empty restaurant after closing, staring at her phone, and finally called him. He answered on the first ring. "Ayanna." "What the hell are you doing?" "Proving a point." His voice was calm, controlled. "You said I was trying to buy you. You were right. So now I'm buying everything you love instead." "Why?" "Because you rejected me. In front of 3 million people. Because you walked away and I'm not used to being told no." A pause. "And because I want you to understand what I can give you if you just say yes." "This is insane. This is obsessive. This is what you deserve, Ayanna. Not me, necessarily, but this. Having people support your vision. Having unlimited resources. Having your dreams funded instead of fighting for every dollar. I'm showing you what your life could be. By controlling everything I've built? That's not love, Tae-Yang. That's manipulation. Is it? I haven't shut you down. Haven't interfered with your operations. I've simply positioned myself to be able to give you anything you need. That building? Your rent just decreased by 60%. Your suppliers? They're now offering you wholesale rates I negotiated. Your show? Season 2 is greenlit with double the budget. Ayanna's hands shook. I didn't ask for any of this. I know. That's what makes you different. You've never asked me for anything. So I'm giving you everything anyway. Call it obsession if you want. Call it manipulation. But Ayanna, call it what it really is. Love from a man who doesn't know any other way to express it. This isn't love. Then teach me what is. Because rejecting my proposal didn't make me love you less. It made me realize I love you more. Enough to change. Enough to learn. Enough to spend every dollar I have proving you matter more than all of it. Tae-Yang, I'm not asking you to marry me. Not anymore. I'm asking you to let me earn you. To give me a chance to learn how to love you properly instead of trying to buy you. That's all. Just a chance. Ayanna closed her eyes, torn between fury and something that felt dangerously like hope. And if I say no again? Then I'll respect it. All these businesses, they're yours now. I've put them in a trust with you as the beneficiary. Whether you choose me or not, your dreams are funded. That was never conditional. Why? Because you were right. I was trying to buy you. And you deserve better than that. You deserve someone who sees your value beyond what transactions you can provide. So this is me, trying to be better. Trying to give without expecting anything in return. His voice cracked slightly. I love you, Ayanna Mitchell. And I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that love isn't about what I can buy you. It's about who I become because of you. He didn't call again. Didn't show up at her restaurant. Didn't make any more grand gestures. But everywhere Ayanna looked, she saw evidence of his influence. The building manager who suddenly became helpful about maintenance issues. The equipment upgrades that appeared overnight. The expansion opportunity in Miami that came with suspiciously perfect terms. And the flowers. Every single day, a new arrangement appeared at her restaurant. Not roses. Different flowers every time with cards explaining their meaning in both English and Korean. Sunflowers. Adoration. Camellias, perfection, forget-me-nots, self-explanatory. Girl, this man is obsessed with you, her sous chef Maya said, reading the latest card. Is this romantic or creepy? I genuinely can't tell. Both, Ayanna admitted. It's both. Are you going to give him another chance? I don't know. What he did, the public proposal, the buying everything, it was manipulative. Controlling. But he stopped when you told him to, and he gave you everything without requiring you to give him anything back. That's not control, babe. That's... I don't know what that is, but it's not what you're calling it. Ayanna couldn't argue, because Maya was right. Tae-Yang had backed off, had given her space while simultaneously ensuring her dreams flourished. It was the strangest, most contradictory courtship she'd ever experienced. And she missed him. Missed his laugh and his stories, and the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his manufactured world. The crisis came 6 weeks after the rejected proposal. Ayanna was at the restaurant late, doing inventory, when 3 men walked in. They wore expensive suits, moved with practiced menace, and the lead one smiled like a shark. Miss Mitchell, I'm Richard Delacroix. I own several restaurants in Atlanta. We're competitors, you might say. We're closed. I'm not here to eat. He sat at the bar, uninvited. I'm here to make you an offer. Close your restaurant, Leave Atlanta, and I'll pay you $5 million. Excuse me? You're disrupting the market, taking customers that should be coming to my establishments. That James Beard nomination should have been mine. So I'm offering you a buyout. Leave quietly, or things get difficult. Is that a threat? It's business. But yes, if you refuse, I'll make sure your health inspections become problematic. Your permits encounter delays. Your reputation suffers mysterious scandals. I have connections, Miss Mitchell. I can make your life very difficult. Get out of my restaurant. You have 48 hours to decide. He stood, buttoning his jacket. Choose wisely. After he left, Ayanna's hands shook so badly she dropped the clipboard she was holding. This was beyond her ability to handle. Delacroix had political connections, money, resources. She was just one woman with one restaurant. She pulled out her phone and called the one person who had more resources than everyone else combined. Tae-Yang answered immediately. Ayanna? I need help. He arrived in 30 minutes, and when Ayanna told him what happened, his expression went from concerned to absolutely lethal. Richard Delacroix, he said, pulling out his phone. I know him. Crooked businessman with Mafia connections. He's been trying to monopolize Atlanta's fine dining scene for years. He threatened me. Said he'd ruin my business if I didn't leave. He won't. Tae-Yang's voice was cold steel. I promise you, Ayanna, he won't touch you or your restaurant. How can you stop him? Because I have more money, more connections, and significantly less restraint when someone threatens what's mine. He caught himself. What matters to me? You matter to me, and I protect what matters. Tae-Yang, I don't want you to... I'm not doing anything illegal, just applying pressure where it counts. Delacroix's restaurants have loans with banks I have relationships with. His permits go through city councils where I've made generous donations. His reputation depends on silence from people I can make very talkative. He looked at her directly. You asked me once what good my money could do. This. Protecting people I love from people who'd hurt them. Let me do this. Why? I rejected you. Publicly. Humiliated you on live television. You told me the truth. That I was being manipulative and transactional. His hand came up to cup her face. You were right. And I'm grateful. Because it forced me to look at how I love, what I thought was love, and realize I'd been doing it wrong my entire life. And now? Now I'm learning. Slowly. Poorly. But learning. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Let me protect you, Ayanna. Not because you owe me. Not because I expect anything in return. But because I love you, and I can't stand the thought of someone hurting you when I have the power to stop it. Ayanna looked at him. Really looked at him. At the earnestness in his eyes, the vulnerability he was showing, the way he was asking instead of assuming. Okay, she said. Help me. Please. His smile was like sunrise. Always. Within 48 hours, Richard Delacroix's empire was crumbling. Health inspectors suddenly appeared at all his restaurants, finding violations that had been overlooked for years. Banks called in loans. The IRS announced an audit. And a dozen former employees came forward with stories of wage theft and harassment, all represented by lawyers who were suspiciously working pro bono. Delacroix himself appeared at Roots and Soul, his face pale with fury. This is you. You're behind this. You and that Korean billionaire. I have no idea what you're talking about, Ayanna said calmly. But maybe if you'd run legitimate businesses instead of threatening people, you wouldn't be in this position. Tell Shin Tae-Yang he's made an enemy. Tell him yourself, he's right behind you. Tae-Yang stood in the doorway, and everything about him radiated controlled danger. Mr. Delacroix, I believe you have something to say to Miss Mitchell. I'm not apologizing to... Then you'll lose everything. All of it. By tomorrow morning, every restaurant you own will be closed for health violations. Every penny will be frozen, and every dirty secret you have will be on the front page. Tae-Yang smiled, and it was terrifying. Or you can apologize to Ayanna, agree to never contact her again, and I'll stop destroying you. Your choice. You have 30 seconds. Delacroix looked at Ayanna with pure hatred, but he also looked at Tae-Yang with fear. I apologize, Miss Mitchell. You won't hear from me again. Good choice. Tae-Yang gestured to the door. Leave. Now. After he was gone, Ayanna turned to Tae-Yang. That was too much? I'm sorry. I tried to be measured, but when it comes to you, I don't know how to be anything but excessive. I was going to say impressive. Scary, but impressive. She moved closer. Thank you for protecting me. For not taking over or controlling me, but actually helping. That's what love should do. Empower, not control. Support, not purchase. His hands found hers. I'm still learning, Ayanna. Still figuring out how to separate what I can buy from what I can build. But I want to build something with you. If you'll let me. I'm scared, she admitted, of how much power you have. Of how easily you can manipulate my world even when you're trying to help. Of losing myself in your orbit. Then set boundaries. Tell me when I'm overstepping. I promise I'll listen. I promise I'll try to do better. He paused. I know I destroyed any trust when I proposed publicly. That was manipulation disguised as romance. But Ayanna, I'm asking you now, privately, with no cameras and no pressure. Will you give me another chance? Will you let me prove I can love you properly? She should say no. Should protect herself from this powerful, obsessive, well-meaning but dangerous man. Instead, she said, yes, but on my terms. We date. Really date. No grand gestures, no buying buildings, no public declarations. We figure out if this works without the money and the power and the manipulation. Done. Whatever you want. And you get therapy. Actually work on understanding healthy relationships instead of transactional ones. Already scheduled. My first appointment is next week. And if you ever propose to me again, it better be private, thoughtful, and after we've been together long enough that I'm sure you love me for me, not just the idea of me. I already love you for you, Ayanna. But I'll prove it, however long it takes. She pulled him down for a kiss, and it felt like coming home, like finding something she hadn't known she was missing. You're ridiculous, she murmured against his lips. I'm obsessed, he corrected. But I'm working on making it healthy obsession instead of billionaire stalking. Good. Because if you buy anything else I love without asking, I'm going to buy your hotel company out of spite. With what money? With the trust fund you set up for me, obviously. He laughed, and the sound was free and happy and real. I love you, Ayanna Mitchell. I'm starting to believe that. She kissed him again. Now let's see if you can actually date like a normal person instead of a controlling billionaire. Define normal, he said. And she laughed despite herself. It wouldn't be easy. They had too much baggage, too much power imbalance, too many obstacles. But as they stood in her restaurant, the one she'd built and he'd tried to buy, Ayanna thought maybe, possibly, they could figure it out. One honest conversation at a time. Epilogue. 1 year later, the proposal happened in her grandmother's kitchen in Southwest Atlanta. Not on live television, not at a charity gala, not with cameras or pressure or millions of dollars worth of rings. Just Tae-Yang, on one knee in front of her grandmother's stove where Ayanna had learned to cook, holding a simple gold band that had belonged to his mother. Ayanna Mitchell, he said quietly, this year with you has taught me what love actually is. It's not buying buildings or making grand gestures. It's showing up. It's listening. It's respecting your boundaries even when I want to solve all your problems with money. It's learning to be a partner instead of a benefactor. Tears streamed down Ayanna's face. Tae-Yang, I'm not finished. You've made me a better man. A real man, not just a rich one. You've taught me that value isn't measured in dollars, that love isn't transactional, that the best things in life are built together, not bought. He smiled. So I'm asking you, with your grandmother as my witness, with no cameras and no pressure, will you marry me? Not for my money or my connections, but because you love me as much as I love you. Yes, Ayanna said, pulling him up for a kiss. Yes, you ridiculous, reformed, still slightly obsessive billionaire. I'll marry you. Her grandmother, watching from the doorway, smiled. About time. Now both of you, come eat. I made oxtails, and your man needs to learn how to cook them properly if he's going to be family. Yes, ma'am, Tae-Yang said respectfully, and Ayanna laughed. Later, as they cooked together in her grandmother's kitchen, Tae-Yang's arms around her waist as she showed him how to season the meat. Ayanna realized something. He hadn't bought her love. He'd earned it. Day by day, conversation by conversation, boundary by boundary. And that, she thought, was worth more than all the buildings and businesses and grand gestures in the world. I love you, she said, turning in his arms. I love you too. He kissed her forehead. And I promise, no more buying everything you love. Good. Just most things you love. I have to do something with all this money. Tae-Yang. I'm kidding, mostly. His grin was unrepentant. But seriously, your restaurant in Tokyo? The lease is very affordable. I checked. You're impossible. But you love me anyway. Unfortunately, Ayanna agreed. I really, really do. And in her grandmother's kitchen, surrounded by the smell of home and the promise of future, she kissed the man who'd learned to love her properly. Obsession, money, and all. The end. Would you have rejected him on live TV? Tell me in the comments. If you loved this obsessive love story, subscribe now, because the next dangerous romance drops soon.